My original 2018 Tesla Model 3 just got an aftermarket reboot. I'm Frugal Tesla Guy. We're going to talk about 4 major hardware upgrades I made to my Tesla Model 3, how they withstood the test of time, which ones had to be replaced, and which ones I plan on putting on my brand new Tesla Model Y. When I first purchased my 2018 Tesla Model 3, in fact it was in August, I was one of the first in my community to have the car, and then eventually just more and more people purchased the car. Now, in the time that I purchased my car, when I first got it, there really weren't a lot of aftermarket products on the market. Till eventually you started seeing more and more accessories being developed that you could add to your car. Now, one of the first that came out was an automatic opening and closing trunk. Now, you're probably saying, well, they already have that. Well, not necessarily, because prior to 2020, they did not have the automatic opening and closing trunk. It was manual. So yeah, you could have it open. You could open the latch at least from the car, from inside the car, but you actually had to lift it yourself and close it yourself. Not a big deal, but a lot of people jumped on that opportunity to have the automatic lift gate, which was certainly nice to have. Then the automatic frunk came out. That was more popular. People wanted to be able to have that frunk open and close automatically, and that was certainly something that was very popular. Then you also had, after that, soft closing doors and the self-presenting door handles. You know, really what was a kind of a cool feature in the early days, at least, was with the Model S, they had those door handles. They still do, that present themselves. And that was something that the Model 3 and eventually the Model Y wanted to mimic. And there were products that eventually came out to have those installed. So those are the 4 main products that I'm going to be talking about here, reviewing. And we're also going to talk about which one of those, if not all of them, right, were they eventually something that I had to have replaced on my Model 3. We're going to get into all of that. But before we get into the order that I had everything installed, when I had everything installed, I want to tell you about the guy that installed all of those things for me. His name is Larry Lee. And I was very fortunate enough to meet him in his early years of his business. You know, he started off in his 2-car garage. He was going out to many different locations to install things. I was fortunate enough that he actually drove, it's about a 4-hour drive from his place to install first the frunk for me, and then he drove down a second time to install the trunk for me. Now, one of the first things that I noticed, just one of the nicest guys on the planet, right? He just was super nice, very courteous. He was very efficient, got the job done. And one of the things, it's not just because he was working with me on Frugal Tesla Guy, but this is how he is. He's all about making sure that his customers are happy. He's very, very thorough. He makes sure he does the job properly, and he doesn't just send you off at home with that installed product, but if something should go wrong, he will help you. He'll try to resolve it on the phone first, and if you can't, then you can go down to his shop and he will fix the problem for you. So with that said, when he first started, he started in his 2-car garage. Now, over the last few years, he's got a bigger shop. It's a place he has to commute to. He's got a showroom. He's actually got an assistant as well to help him get the job done as well. So his business has grown, and I'm so happy to see how well he has done with his business, now known as EV Mod. So what I want to do is, if you live in the Bay Area, and you've thought about getting any of these products I'm talking about or anything else, because he does a lot of other modifications to cars, you can contact him. And I'm going to leave his contact information on the bottom of the screen here. I'll also have all of his contact information in the description below. If you live in the Bay Area, his shop is in Newark, California, which is in the Fremont area. It's a nice centralized location for the Bay Area, so anywhere you live in the Bay Area, you can go to his shop and he'll be able to get everything done for you. So once again, I highly encourage you, if you have any products you want to have put on your car, Larry Lee is the guy to go to, because again, not only does he install everything beautifully and the way it should be done, and he does it effectively, but he also makes sure that you go home a happy customer and stay happy should something go wrong down the line. So check out that information, call him up, and he will be glad to fit you in his busy schedule. I'm glad to see that he's also busier these days as well. So we're going to start with the first aftermarket product I had installed in my car, and that was the automatic opening and closing frunk. Now, the first on the planet to have it installed in his car was Tesla Raj, and he actually had that done, I believe it was in early September. I had the frunk eventually installed in my car in late September, so about 2 to 3 weeks after he had released his video. So again, this is not a bragging rights type of situation. What it is to let you know that I had the first generation of that frunk from that particular company on my car. And once Larry installed it, he installed it beautifully. It worked great. But within a couple of weeks, I started having problems. One of the first things, and really it was just a continuing problem, is that it wouldn't unlatch properly. It would maybe go up halfway and stop. Then maybe from there, I'd have to push it up or down, or it would stop halfway and then go back down. It was just acting erratically. I never really knew what to expect every time I tried to activate the automatic frunk. Now, after contacting the company, they got me a new control box. That seemed to fix the issue for a short while. It didn't really fix it permanently. And that's when I started running into more problems. So it was just a replacing of the box. Then what I did was I had a trunk, actually a frunk from EV Offer. So I went to a different company, and EV Offer came out with a frunk of their own. It actually came out with a frunk before the company I was working with. That was the one that Tesla Raj had that I was telling you about. So in late 2020, they sent me their version of the automatic opening and closing frunk. So what I did is I took the original hardware out, all of the harnesses, the wires. I even took off the struts and took everything out, and then I put in the EV Offer hardware. And it worked great. Now, eventually what happened was down the road, they started running into issues. I didn't have issues, but they were having customers coming to them saying they were having issues. And what they discovered is that the control box wasn't waterproof, and that there was moisture getting within that control box, and it was creating things to malfunction with the automatic frunk. So they worked from the ground up, and they made everything everything waterproof. So what they did is they made a new box, a new harness system that made all of the connections waterproof, and there was one main connection that was waterproof to the box that was great. So that's the version I have now, and that was in late 2020. Now, I never had any issues with the EV Offer frunk even before the waterproofing became an issue. But I did install all of the new harnessing, all of the new struts, the works, and that was in late 2020. And from that point forward to where we are now, it has worked flawlessly. I have not had any issues. It hasn't had a problem with unlatching or only going up halfway or whatever. It has worked as it should since day one. So that's the frunk. By EV Offer, they have, I think, an amazing product, and it will, in my case, it never failed me, which would lead me to believe that the majority of their products would never fail as well. But obviously, when it comes to electronics like this, you can have issues, and that's the beauty of having Larry Lee on your side. Or if you don't have Larry Lee, say you don't live in the Bay Area, make sure you've got an installer that can help you out and take care of you should something go wrong. So then, as I mentioned, I had the automatic trunk from the first company I was working with, and there was actually no reason for me to change out because it was working. Now, it worked. I never replaced it with anything. So since November of 2019, to about, I'd say, I don't exactly know the date when I started having issues, but in about 2024, the struts started failing me. What I mean by that is I was noticing first that the trunk was opening very slowly and closing very slowly, till eventually it wouldn't even unlatch because there wasn't enough pop from those struts to get it off of that latch. So then it would eventually just kind of close itself back shut. Now I did put some lubrication on there and that fixed it for about 2-3 months, and then it went back to the same issues. So I'd have to say that after about 5 years, approximately 5 years, say 4.5 to 5 years, the struts on that original auto lift gate for the Tesla Model 3 that I installed in November of 2019, the struts finally failed me and something needed to be done. So that is a look at kind of the longevity of the lift gate. Now again, keep in mind it was the first generation. I'd say that's not too bad for a first generation. It didn't have any problems with the actual control box. That seemed to work flawlessly, but it was mainly the struts that eventually we had some problems with. Next, we take you to the self-presenting door handles and the soft closing doors. Now, honestly, a year before the door handles became available, I was actually offered the soft closing doors, but it really wasn't anything I was terribly interested in, so I turned it down. Then, a year later, that is when the self-presenting door handles were offered, and I said, yeah, I would absolutely like to jump on board with that. So they said, well, let me send you the 2 front doors and the soft closing doors with it. And I thought, well, we'll do the soft closing doors since everything's going to be opened up, and might as well just go ahead and install both those products. So that's essentially what happened. Now, so of course, I took it over to Larry Lee's 2-car garage at that time still, and he installed everything for me. Now again, keep in mind, with this company, it was the first generation of the self-presenting doors, and it was probably either the first or second generation of the soft closing doors, although the soft closing doors really hadn't taken off yet at that point. So I'd say it was probably somewhere within that first to second generation. So Larry Lee installed both of those for me. Now the problem was there is a connector that you need, and it was the wrong size. So I went home with the self-presenting door handles, but those weren't working until I got the proper plug, and that took about a month for them to get one out to me. They had to retrofit it basically to get it out to me. But it gave me an opportunity to at least test out the soft closing doors. So within that first month, the soft closing doors, they worked flawlessly for about a week after I left Larry Lee's shop. Then things started to kind of go haywire. We've got a serious problem with the door. I can't watch what happens. It won't close, the window won't close. And at one point it was going up and down and up and down and up and down. It will not indicate that the door is closed. The window is not going up. So it's indicating that the door is open. I can't get the window to go up all the way. The window eventually did go back up by itself. I guess just when I went back in the house, it went back up. Let me see. So right now, they open it. There it goes. Let me get in the car. Okay, it went up. So, I mean, that's just kind of a snippet of some of the issues that I was having here. And so eventually I had to live with those issues. They got me the right plug for the self-presenting door handles. Now, the self-presenting door handles also worked flawlessly for about a week or so. And then, not sure what's going on here. Door handle is presenting itself while I'm stopped at a stoplight. Not sure why that's happening, but I find that kind of interesting. Oh, now it just unpresented itself. That I said the passenger side auto present door hadn't been working for over a week. I just put the car in park and I noticed that the passenger side door handle just presented itself while I did that. Of course, now it just unpresented itself because I had to get the camera ready. But again, just a lot of inconsistencies. I don't know when. Let me try right now while we're doing this. I'm gonna lock the door. Let me unlock the door. And look at that. I'm in park and I just unlocked the door. And by the way, the driver's side is presenting itself as well. I'll just prove that to you right here. There you can see it has presented itself too. But it's this side that I really want to focus on because it hasn't been working. But now it works again. So as you can see, the first generation of the self-presenting door handles was not a very good situation. It was a few months after that that another company, EV Offer, approached me and said, we would like to give you our version of the soft closing doors and the self-presenting door handles. So they sent me all 4 handles and all 4 soft closing doors. Larry Lee installed those for me. Now, what I liked about these new handles is I had an option between white lights kind of going around the perimeter or around the trim of the door handle, or blue lights. So I choose to kind of go with the basic white light there. And I thought it looked really nice. So Larry Lee installed those for me, and perfectly, right? They worked great. In fact, the self-presenting door handles never really gave me a problem. And I'd say they worked even up until today. They worked about 90% of the time. What I mean by that is sometimes I'd approach the car and the doors wouldn't present themselves. Not a big deal, not an issue. You just kind of push on them and they'll present themselves to you. But majority of the time, they certainly presented themselves as I walked up to the car. Till, again, from the very beginning when they were installed to the very end here till we get to this video. It was the soft closing doors that eventually we started having some issues. And a lot of those issues were the same, but not as bad as that original company I was working with. So essentially what happened was, and the main issues I was having for over a year was the passenger back door. Every once in a while, it would go through a phase where when you opened up the door, when you open the door, as you know, the window opens up a little bit and then that allows you to open the door, right? And it stays down until you close the door and it goes back up. But what was happening with the self-closing door mechanism is it would go down and then you'd release the door handle. When you open it, the window would go back up. Now that's a problem, right? Because now you can't close the door properly. And sometimes when you don't notice it, what happened was it actually ended up damaging the trim on that back side of the car, on the passenger back rear door. And that can also be an issue because it puts strain on the window. And thank goodness, there were several times you didn't notice it, door is closed and it's putting strain on that window. You're very grateful that it didn't break it. So on the times that it was pretty persistent, what I would do is I'd roll the window down a little bit more than normal. And then when the door is open and closed, then I could roll that window back up and it wasn't an issue. Now on the driver's side door, there was an issue where every once in a while, I mean, it was very rare, but it happened every once in a while. The door would actually just open up by itself. And in fact, there was one point when my wife was driving out of the driveway and she saw that the driver's side door was open. It's just kind of cracked open, it opened by itself. And I had to go out there and close it. So that could obviously be a security issue as well. But that was all from a feature of the soft closing doors. And then on the passenger side front door, my son noticed that there were sometimes issues that it wouldn't even latch or catch or whatever, and he'd have to try it a few times until eventually it would work. So there were issues with that soft closing door feature. So that's kind of the lifespan of that as well. So EV Offer's self-presenting door handles really withstood the test of time. However, the soft closing doors, they didn't quite currently stand the test of time very well, and I really was having a lot of issues with that. Now, with that all being said, Larry Lee mentioned to me that he noticed with the soft closing doors that was an issue with some of the first generations of the soft closing doors, is that there were a lot of issues like the ones I explained that he came across with his customers. But over time, those issues have been addressed. And as far as I know, there are no issues, but I can't speak from that from experience because I haven't had at least the newest soft closing doors long enough to really say that that's an issue or not. So again, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. So where do we stand now? What ended up happening? Well, here's the thing. When Larry Lee actually reached out to me and he says, we've got to fix you up. We got to make sure that everything's working properly. And I thought that was great. I mean, here's classic Larry Lee, right? Making sure that I'm a happy customer. So I drove down to his shop. First of all, it was great to see his new shop. It's absolutely amazing. So the main issue that we needed to have address were the soft closing doors. So he just took out all 4 soft closing door mechanisms and replaced them with brand new ones. He also addressed the trunk that was not unlatching and wasn't working properly. He took the old one out, put a brand new one in, works flawlessly. Now, nothing else needed to be replaced because it was working beautifully. But he says, you know what? Now we're here, we're doing the soft closing doors. Let's give you the latest and greatest with the self-presenting door handles. So, all right, so I said, go ahead. And he replaced those as well. I like those. They're a little bit more, they actually do present themselves sooner than the original ones I had. And you can change the colors, which I thought was kind of neat as well. So you didn't have to just choose one color. You can have an array of colors to choose from for those door handles. So those were the 3 main things that he replaced. The trunk, which had to be replaced, the soft closing doors, which needed to be replaced, and the self-presenting door handles, which did not need to be replaced, but he just wanted to give me the latest and greatest, which I thought was pretty cool. But we didn't do anything with the frunk because the frunk works flawlessly. And really, the generation that I have has not changed much since where we are today. It's a fairly flawless system. It works great. So why try to fix something that isn't broken, right? It works beautifully. So here we are now. I've got my Tesla Model 3 2018 that I'm handing over to my son, and I can rest assured that the trunk is going to work properly, the handles, the soft closing doors, and the frunk are all going to work properly for him. So then the next question is, what about my Tesla Model Y? What upgrades do I want to do after my experience with the Tesla Model 3? Now, as it stands right now, I think I'm going to stay away from the soft closing doors because I've had so many issues, even from the EV Offer, which quite honestly is going to be one of the best companies you can work with. I think that they've really dialed in. Their whole focus since day one was all about quality product, not just getting it out there as soon as you can. So, hopefully things have changed for them and those soft closing doors do work better. So again, I probably at this point in time am going to stay away from the soft closing doors. But what I still want to do is the frunk, automatic opening and closing frunk. I don't have to worry about the trunk because, the lift gate in the Model Y already has an automatic opening and closing tailgate. And I want to do the self-presenting door handles. I really like that feature as well. So I'm probably going to have the same ones that were put on the Tesla Model 3 and have them put on the Tesla Model Y. Now, one thing that I am contemplating, when I was over at Larry Lee's shop, he had a Model Y that was having a lot of modifications done on them. And one of them was automatic opening and closing doors. That when you walk up to the door, it opens up for you. It's got the sensors to make sure it doesn't bump up against anything, such as another car next to it or anything else. I was really impressed by that. So that is uncharted territory, if you will. So do I take that risk? Well, maybe. And the reason I say that is because the automatic opening doors is something that's been around for a while and most likely has been dialed in and works better than, say, some of the first couple of generations. But one of the things that gives me pause on that is that Larry said that when you get the automatic opening and closing door, it automatically comes with a soft closing door mechanism. Now, I'm a little concerned about the soft closing door mechanism, but maybe that's dialed in. I've got the new ones on the Model 3. Hopefully those don't give us any issues. So I'm going to talk to Larry and see if that's something he recommends. We'll discuss it. And when the time comes to have everything installed, I'm also going to talk to him about should I or should I not have him install the automatic opening and closing door. It may be a luxury that I don't necessarily need, but I think it would certainly be fun to have. So that's been my overall experience with those 4 major hardware upgrades to at least my Tesla Model 3 and the experience that I had with those. So you can kind of see some of the nightmares I had to deal with, but then there really were, like for a large majority of the time, the trunk worked. Once I went through a couple of headaches with the frunk, that worked flawlessly once I got a product in there that worked beautifully. The handles also, they were great. Never had any issues with those either, at least after I had to deal with the first headaches. Then, of course, once I was able to get EV Offers door handles in there, they worked beautifully. It was the soft closing doors. Again, that's where I had headaches really from day one all the way to the time that Larry installed the new one. So it'll be interesting to see how the new soft closing doors withstand the test of time. Are we going to have more issues with them? We shall see. And stay tuned, because once I have those installed, we will decide whether or not I do that opening and closing door. And what are your thoughts on this? Frugality aside, what do you think of these products? Are these things that you think you might want to have installed on your car? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. In the meantime, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and stay positively charged.